Hello, dwellers of the internet, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about Jawbreakers. They are an extremely famous candy. They are a candy that has been around for an extremely long time. A candy that has developed a reputation for breaking jaws and for making your tongue bleed, and all kinds of negative side effects and connotations. And I think that's not only is that interesting to think about, but it's topical for me because recently I've been trying to process my way through digesting a Jawbreaker extremely slowly through nothing but licks, because it's impossible to fit one of these things in your mouth. I went to a candy shop. It's an extremely famous candy shop. I forget the name of it. I wish I could remember, because if I said the name, you would probably know it, because they've been around for over 100 years, something around there, and they're famous for creating candy canes live in front of you around Christmas time. I think probably any time of the year, but they create candy canes. They have a giant actual candy cane that is edible that was made, mounted on their wall, in the shop behind the employee desk area, which is cool to look at and cool to think about, and imagine what it would be like to taste that. I mean, I'm sure it would taste just like any old candy cane, but it's cool to see something that huge that's actually made. It's the same feeling you get when you go to Legoland and you see something huge and giant crafted out of Legos, and to know that it's made from actual Legos impresses you, because it's this giant life-size, or even beyond life-size, intricate creation that took, days and days to create, hours and hours, depending. But nevertheless, it remains interesting, and this candy shop is really famous. And at this candy shop, they sell all kinds of candy. Anything from your run-of-the-mill, like, cheap shit that you would find at a 7-Eleven or a grocery store in the when you're in the checkout aisle, to candy that's as intricate or not intricate, but intricately made, to candies that are just considered rare because of either the materials they're crafted from, the ingredients that go into making them, or the fact that they just don't get made often, or perhaps they belong to a particular brand or something like that, which, some kind of mechanism that increases their rarity, which is cool. So I browsed through this entire candy shop, and I buy a few things here and there, like an exclusive pin. They had other exclusive, like, mugs and stuff that you could only get at that specific shop, which was cool. But I hadn't had a Jawbreaker in a very, very long time, and I said to myself, yeah, why not get a Jawbreaker, because I remember liking them a whole lot. The last Jawbreaker I think I had beforehand was a Jawbreaker at Disneyland. Some of you may know, they're the Jawbreakers that come packaged inside of the balls, inside of the plastic ball packaging that also has added on Mickey ears on top of it. Like the Jawbreaker is encased inside of this plastic that's holding it, that's one sphere, and then you have the two other Mickey spheres on top they're not holding anything, but they're for the decoration and aesthetic, and to, get you to buy it, sort of thing. And it's on a stick. This Jawbreaker is on a stick, which admittedly makes it a hell of a lot more convenient to eat, which is cool of Disney for doing, in all respects. But this Jawbreaker I had gotten was not colored, your average color. Sometimes different candy shops like to spruce it up a little bit and make it a different color, just because it's a little bit more interesting. This one I got was red, with black dots surrounding it, just coated all over it, like splattered paint, And it reminded me of the planet Mustafar from Star Wars Episode 3. And not only was that attractive, but I wanted to just try a Jawbreaker, because it had been a very, very long time. I mean, that Disneyland trip was probably, I want to say, God, years and years. It had to have been and it was when I was a kid, because I've been to Disneyland again since I've had that Jawbreaker, but that experience at Disneyland, in which I did eat that Jawbreaker, was, I think maybe, God, 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, something like that. A significant amount of time had passed since I had had a Jawbreaker, point being, and this one I saw, and I had to get it because I just wanted to see if I would still like it, and, you know, whether or not the taste would hold up and how the experience would be different. And you think of Jawbreakers as a kid, I think, as some kind of idealistic candy just because of its fame and because of you know, how people talk about it, and because the name is cool. I think that was part of why I enjoyed you know, eating Jawbreakers a little bit more often as a child, was because they were called Jawbreakers. That name just sounded cool to me. I mean, what's cooler than something that could break your jaw? that is also delicious and candy flavored, you know, and pure sugar, which was wonderful. And I've come to realize, after getting this Jawbreaker, that I don't like them nearly as much as I used to. They're still extremely tasty. They still are, you know, a good candy to eat if you're going to choose, you know, a candy by taste, but the taste itself is not worth what it takes to consume the whole thing, and the process by which you are doing the consuming. It takes far too much effort, I feel, and you know, it's not even just that, you know, you're too lazy to consume a candy that requires a significant amount of time for you to eat. When I get a Jawbreaker, I expect to spend a lot of time licking that thing. I expect it to be, you know, the Super Saiyan of challenges when compared to, you know, licking a Tootsie Pop. You know, the question of how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop is nothing compared to that of the amount of licks that it takes to get to the center of a Jawbreaker. This shit is massive, and I picked the smallest one, mind you. They had a small, medium, and large Jawbreaker available, and the large was like, it was like a little bit bigger than a baseball, like ridiculous. And luckily, I was perceptive about this beforehand, and I decided to choose the small one, so I took the small Jawbreaker, and it's been two weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, and I have had this Jawbreaker in a plastic baggie because I have not found the time or effort to finish it. Now, this is not to say that I am weak of will when it comes to consuming candy that, you know, takes this much amount of time. Like I said, I went into getting this Jawbreaker expecting for it to take a long time to eat it, or, you know, at least a lot of effort, a lot of licks. It's not just that. This thing causes you suffering, and not in the way you would think. It doesn't break your jaw because your tongue gets tired. I mean, that's a fatigue effect that may set in more to children, I think, but when you're an adult and you're consuming one of these things, it's not tiredness of the tongue that gets to you. It's the fact that every 50 to 100 licks or so, I don't know if it's the result of the material it's made from, or how it, or, you know, the type of sugar, or how the sugar crystallizes at certain points, because it's pretty much every layer of it that does this. The Jawbreaker is composed of like 10 different layers, and it makes your tongue bleed. If you are licking it for a significant amount of time, it destroys the taste buds and flesh of your tongue, and then you're not only no longer tasting the full effect of the sugar you're consuming, but you're also tasting whatever is remnant of it with the mixture of blood from your ripped flesh of your tongue, which is not fun. So ultimately I've got to say that when it comes to Jawbreakers, I am not as fond of them as I once was, because I now realize that I have to take breaks in between the destruction of my tongue flesh to finish this fucking thing, which is not appealing. It's kind of a deal breaker when it comes to a candy. I'm not even sure if I'll ever get another one again. I mean, I might, just because I'll have a fit of nostalgia for no reason at some point in the future, which is pretty much what this was. That's the only reason why I got another one. I wanted to taste it again. But at this point, I've got to say, I've decided that I don't like Jawbreakers nearly as much as I used to. Not for a lack of taste. They still taste just as good, but because I'm still not done with the one I bought 3 weeks ago that has caused me a severe pain and a lot of blood loss. So, I mean, I'm about 3/4 of the way done with this Jawbreaker, but and I plan on finishing it as soon as it gets small enough to where I can actually fit it in my mouth and just you know, devour it like a candy. I'm just gonna do that, which will take enough time in and of itself. But after that, probably not gonna buy one again. Yeah, I don't think so. So, to sum this up, Jawbreakers when you're a kid, very good. You might be a little bit more willing and just crazy for candy that you'd be willing to put up with this kind of shit for it. Because I do remember my tongue hurting and I think bleeding at certain points when eating Jawbreakers in the past too, but maybe I blocked that out because I wanted to think that idealistically Jawbreakers were better than that because of their fame that I tried to hold them up to. But realistically, when you're older, eating one, no, not worth it. Anyways, that's it.